Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Salih al-Mahdi. Peace and blessings be upon you, brothers and sisters. We are on the 9th day of the month of Ramadan. A day like tomorrow, the 10th day of the month of Ramadan, is one of the important days of this month, since the wife of the Holy Prophet, Lady Khadija Salamullah alayha, the mother of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra, was deceased and departed from this world on a day like tomorrow. And we are expressing our condolences to our Imam of Time for this event, for this day. She was the only support of the Holy Prophet when everyone were denying the Holy Prophet, when everyone was disrespecting the Holy Prophet of Islam. She was the only support of the Holy Prophet, to the extent that the Prophet said, "No one for me is like Khadija." She supported me when everyone left me alone, when everyone abandoned me. She donated her entire wealth for the cause of Islam when everyone abandoned the Holy Prophet, when everyone boycotted the Holy Prophet of Islam. And with her support and wealth, she helped the cause of Islam. She helped the Holy Prophet in his mission of prophethood, and therefore we should revere her name. We should have high respect for her, and we are commemorating her death anniversary on a day like tomorrow. Continuing on the 44th dua of Sahifah Al-Sajjadiah, we stated yesterday that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is teaching us what should a good fasting, what should an accepted fasting yield into, what should be the effects of a true fasting. Imam says, وَأَعِنَّا عَلَى صِيَامِهِ بِكَفِّ الْجَوَارِحِ عَنْ مَعَاصِيكَ. Allow us, help us to fast in this month by restraining our limbs from acts of disobedience towards Thee, وَإِسْتِعْمَالَهَا فِيهَ بِمَا يُرْضِيكَ, and are employing them in that which pleases Thee. Therefore, we learn from this portion of the dua that each limb, each body part, each portion, each part of our body should be employed in the path of pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Imam counted the mission of the eye and the mission of the ears. وَلَا نُصْغِيَ بَأَسْمَاءِنَا إِلَىٰ لَغْوٍ, so that we lend not our ears to idle talks. وَلَا نُصْرِعَ بَأَبْصَارِنَا إِلَىٰ لَهْوٍ, and hurry not with our ears towards direct diversion. And then on today we continue. Imam is basically assigning missions to every body part, or teaching us, in a better word, teaching us how we can get benefited, what is the best state for every single part of our body. What is the mission of every single part of our body? What are the things that every single body part should specifically refrain from, and what are the things that these body parts can do in order to please the Lord the Almighty. Imam says, وَحَتَّى لَا نَبْسُطَ أَيْدِيَنَا إِلَى مَهْذُورٍ, so that on the part that he says وَاسْتِعْمَالَهَا فِيهَ بِمَا يُرْزِيكَ, on the path of pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what can our hands do so that we stretch not, la nabsuta, our hands toward the forbidden. Oh Allah, help us so that our hands do not stretch towards what is forbidden. There's so many things that are forbidden for our hands, taking us towards what is sin. Shaking hand with non-related opposite gender, non-mahram. Stealing money. Writing things that are deceiving people. Spreading out forwarding certain messages on social media that we don't know the truth of it. Right? These are the things we can do with our hands. Rather, there's so many good things we could do with our hands. One of them, the Holy Prophet says in the sermon of the month of Sha'ban, وَتَصَدَّقُوا عَلَى فُقَرَائِكُمْ وَمَسَاكِنِكُمْ. Pay charity in this month to the needy and poor. We have in the Holy Quran that the person, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا. We can let the people who are needy, who are in need of financial support, for example, we can lend a hand of aid to them, even a small portion of help. If someone needs money to borrow, we have qardul hasana. And on this verse, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يُقْرِضُ اللَّهَ قَرْضًا حَسَنًا, he says, who is out there to lend Allah qard? Lend Allah some money. It's as if the person who is lending to the brother and sister in deen some portion of money from their wealth, it's as if they are shaking hands with God. They're placing their hands in the hand of God. These are the things we can do with our hands. We can write words that enlighten other people. We can do research with these hands. We can scientifically help the people of the world. We can lend a hand of aid to the needy ones. We can, with these hands, we can be kind to orphans. There's so many things we can do with our hands. And there's so many things we should not do with our hands. These hands are made to help us approach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not get away, not get further away from Him, the Almighty. وَلَا نَخْطُوَ بِأَقْدَامِنَا إِلَى مَحْجُورٍ. And stride not, or help us so that we do not take any steps towards, with our feet, toward the prohibited. Help us so that our feet do not take us to majalis al-battalin that we talked about, to the sessions of wrongdoers in this dunya. So that our feet takes us to the masjid, so that our feet takes us to salat, so that our feet takes us to paying visit to the elderly, so that our feet takes us to lend a hand, to lend aid to our parents, our family members, our brothers and sisters in deen. There's so many things that the feet can do and accumulate for us khair in this dunya. Hatta, and the same way on the path of pleasure, this fasting that we have, it should help us so that la ta'iya butunana illa ma ahlalt. So that our bellies, our stomach hold only what thou hast made lawful. Brothers and sisters, what we eat, we are what we eat. And this statement is true even spiritually. If we eat halal, that food, that energy that comes from that food will be spent on the path of worshipping Allah. And if we, God forbid, inshallah, we don't have anyone amongst us, if we eat from haram, that energy, that food will move us towards what deceives us from the path of Allah, from the path of guidance. That food will take us away from the path of guidance, will make us deprived from the light of guidance. Imam alayhi salam, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, on the day of Ashura, when he looks at the crowd of the enemy, the army of the enemy is in front of him, the numerous people who are standing in front of Imam, hearing the voice of oppression, the voice of oppressed, and the voice of the innocent Imam and his pure family, Imam says, you can't hear me, meaning that you can't get convinced. Your hearts are being blinded. Your hearts are deaf. I'm making translations. You have ears with it, you don't listen. It's as if there's a block. Your eyes, you can see, but at the same time you cannot see the truth. Imam says, you know why that is happening to you? That you are slaughtering the grandson of the Holy Prophet on the command of an oppressor like Yazid. Do you know what is the reason behind that? It's because لَقَدْ مُلِعَتْ بُطُونُكُم مِّنَ الْحَرَامِ وَالشُّبْهَةِ. It's because your stomach, your belly has been filled with haram, with the prohibited, and with shubha, with the money that is makhloot, it's mixed. Halal and haram is mixed. What is the money that is mixed? It is the money that has not been cleansed, that you haven't paid charity, that you haven't paid your khums and Islamic duties. This is the money that you're feeding yourself and your family. And if that happens, how do you expect to not stand against the Imam of our time? So the very first step to assist our Imam of time is to cleanse our tables from haram, from prohibited. وَحَتَّى لَا تَعِيَ بُطُونَنَا إِلَّا مَا أَحْلَلْتَ, so that our bellies hold only what thou hast made lawful. The stomach is the root of the desires, is the root for changing the desires. Many of these akhlaqi scholars say, seek help and assistance from fasting, because that helps you to cleanse your bellies, to cleanse your stomach, to cleanse your body from haram. وَلَا يَنْتِقَ أَلْسِنَتُنَا إِلَّا بِمَا مَثَّلْتَ. You see, with the assignment of missions to every body parts, Imam is teaching us one thing, and that is through fasting you get a strong will to reform and repair. What? The root of the desires. The ulama and scholars call this mabda' mail. If the root of desires gets repaired, gets reformed, gets cured from the pollutions and from the dirtiness of this dunya and the desires, and from the darkness of this dunya, then everything fixes. Then your hands only gets stretched towards halal and towards getting you closer to Allah. Your tongue speaks only of truth. Your stomach only gets filled with halal, because you're constantly watching yourself. And fasting helps us with that. وَلَا يَنْتِقَ أَلْسِنَتُنَا إِلَّا بِمَا مَثَّلْتَ. And our tongues speak only what thou hast exemplified. So that Imam, the Rasulullah in the sermon of the month of Sha'ban says, guard your tongues. وَحْفَظُوا لِسَانَكُمْ. In this holy month of Ramadan, practice this. Try to remain silent. Try to use that right that you have. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, he exemplifies, he compares tongue with a wolf. You know, if the wolf is being cautioned and scared, they will not attack you. Lisan and tongue is like this. On another note, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the person who speaks too much, who talks too much, then that person makes too much mistakes. These are correlated. If you're talking too much, then you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to hurt someone with your tongue. You're going to end up being dishonest. You're going to gossip. You're going to say useless things. And the person who makes frequent mistakes, his complexity of problems will increase to the extent that his modesty will decrease. The modesty will fade away. And once that happens, La iman liman la haya lah. There is no faith for the person who is not modest. If you want to see the root cause of the lack of modesty, in ourselves, what I would do, I would check out myself and see if am I speaking too much? Am I talking too much? Am I having lost the control over my tongue? And the person who's dishonest, whose modesty decreases or fades away, what happens? His taqwa will decrease. He will not be able to remain in the state of God-fearing. And once that happens, the result of that would be his heart will die out and will perish. And if that happens, Imam says, he enters the hellfire. So brothers and sisters, we have to watch out what we say with our tongues, because this little tongue is going to be the most body part, the most in fault, the most blamed body part that we have on the Day of Judgment. Out of the 40 things, there has been said about 90% of them are for the tongues. There's so many things that these tongues can do, good or bad. The power of language, the power of the tongue, and distinguishing where we are going to end up to, in designing our destiny. وَلَا نَتَكَلَّفْ إِلَّا مَا يُدْنِي مِنْ ثَوَابِكِ. So that help us to undertake nothing but what brings close to thy reward. Min thawabik. So that we do nothing, we act upon nothing, but whatever that gets us closer to you and your reward, O Allah. وَلَا نَتَعَاتِ إِلَّا الَّذِي يَقِيَ مِنْ عَقَابِكِ. And pursue nothing but what protects us from thy punishment. So we have one of these beautiful du'as that we make on these nights is that, O Allah, free us from the chains of the hellfire. And we can reach that level on these nights of Ramadan. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a special opening for everyone to enter upon the beautiful land of His ubudiyah and worship. Inshallah, we will be amongst those who will be forgiven throughout the nights of this month, who will be safeguarded from the hellfire, and who will be on the path of getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly and continuously.